Good evening, everyone. With the time being 6:00 p.m. on Tuesday, September 13th, 2022, I will call this meeting of the Webster School Committee to order and ask that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So actually, our first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 23rd, 2022 meeting. We're going to be tabling that for this evening. And we're also going to switch things up a little bit. So the next item that we're going to be looking at tonight is our student representative update. And I'm thrilled to announce Victoria Spitz as our new student representative. Welcome, Victoria. Yep.
We have just recently gone back to classes this last week, and before that, there was a freshman orientation that was held on August 25th, and the attendance was high for both students and incoming students, along with the teachers and volunteers. And it was a great opportunity for the students to learn the new layout of the building, and the PBIS put it together through the school. Currently, students are adjusting well to the new schedule, and instead of having a 6-block rotating schedule, it's now a 7-period block schedule. So we have every class every day, and this allows for more time learning in the classroom and more efficient with the classes, being able to have one every day and continue the learning. We are also having a homeroom for the first hour of the day until Friday. Currently, this week it's been 30 minutes instead of an hour, but Friday we are going to the normal no homeroom 7-day schedule. And we're using this time to get accustomed to the new schedule and learning how to use our lockers, which we have just got. Friday we will be returning to normal classes. And last week was the first week of sporting events for the fall season. Both girls and boys soccer, golf, girls and boys cross country, volleyball, and football all participated in sporting events last week. The golf team had their first win on Friday. The signups for the PSATs are open for the October 12th test at Bartlett High School, and the deadline for signups is tomorrow with the guidance department. And this is a great opportunity to practice for the SATs in the coming months.
Excellent. Thank you for your updates, Vicki. How's the school year going so far?
It's going good. I love it a lot. I love all my classes, and my teachers are excellent.
Excellent. Great to hear. Any questions or comments from the committee? Thank you for your updates. You're always very welcome to stay for these meetings. I know that you have an obligation on Tuesday nights, though, so at any point when you're ready, you can head on out, unless Dr. Gogan, if you have any questions.
No, I want to just welcome you to the team, and we are looking forward to hearing your perspective on the student view on life at Bartlett High School and life in the district. And I know that we're going to accommodate you, so when you do have homework or a test or a course, please make sure you tell me, because I will make sure you go first, and then you can go.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All of you. Thank you.
So nice to see you.
You too.
Good luck at your class
Have a
tonight.
good night. Thank you.
Nice job.
So the next item on the agenda, going back in our normal order, would be the superintendent's report. Good evening, Dr. Gogan.
Good evening, everyone. How's everyone tonight? Good? All right. Well, it's great to see you. I'm pleased to let you know that we had a wonderful opening of school. We had new teacher orientation on August 23rd and 24th, and that was very successful. It was really nice to see the new teachers bonding together and making relationships and bringing a new level of energy into the schools. There have been a number of new teachers, as you know, and I think it's much easier to come into a district when there is a number of new teachers coming in. So people are naturally connecting to each other. From my perspective, I think we had a very successful 3-day opening on August 29th, 30th, and 31st. Thank you to Kelly and Linda for joining us on district opening. We welcome staff with reviewing our purpose as educators and really focusing on safety. As I've shared before, we're doing some work under the umbrella of sense of belonging, and we're looking at putting together goals for the district and goals for each of the school improvement plans under the 4 buckets under the sense of belonging. We are collecting feedback from teachers and families, and we will from students on each of these buckets. Unfortunately, only about 15 parents have filled out the survey that I put out, so we'll be pushing out the survey for families again through Class Dojos and through the principal's office to see if we can get some more feedback on those 4 bucket areas. And again, they are creating safe learning environments, ensuring that students are doing the majority of the thinking in the classroom, ensuring that we have culturally responsive and equitable practices in our buildings, and maintaining ongoing communication with families. I think everybody sort of likes that clarity and are glad that we're kind of slowing things down a little and really talking about what everyone's going to do for action items in those areas. I will bring a plan to you at a future meeting after we have collected feedback. Our opening days were also filled with ongoing ALICE drills at each of the buildings. I want to give a huge shout out to Detective Whiting and Officer Melhouse, who organized several police officers from different communities to come and help us do real life scenarios, starting out with, just old-fashioned lockdowns to giving us different scenarios. I will say that because we have done ALICE before, because this isn't the first time, the level of anxiety from our staff was calm. And everyone did the drills and learned a lot doing the drills. And there was an overwhelming sense of appreciation for doing the drills in the first 3 days. The drills are clearly for adults to be able to start to think about the critical thinking that has to happen in times of a crisis. So again, a shout out to the Webster Police, in particular Detective Whiting and Officer Dan Melhouse, because of their relationship with our staff, things went really, really well. We also had a very successful opening for our students for both grades 1 through 12 and pre-K to kindergarten. I have to say it was the calmest opening in my tenure here. And even though we had hiccups, I think our opening year this year, everybody stepped up to do different jobs. And so everyone rolled up their sleeves, and I don't think I've ever said this in my career, I did not see a crying student across the district. That's remarkable. So there was a nice sense of calmness everywhere. I've enjoyed being in the buildings, meeting our new students, and actually meeting the staff and being around. So it's been a great opening. Our enrollment numbers are still coming in. In the last 2 weeks, we've had around 234 enrollments come into our central office. So that takes a lot of manpower. I just want to give a shout out to Desiree and Lori and all of our staff here, because everyone's on deck with centralized enrollment. Our enrollment numbers of September 9th were 1,674 students. That's 719 at Park Ave, 590 at Webster Middle School, and 365 at Bartlett. We still have probably 15 pending enrollments ongoing, and I'm sure there'll be more by the October 1st deadline. We've been very busy with hiring new staff. I'm pleased to welcome Laura Hackett as a para at Park Avenue, Bren Montevallo, para at Webster Middle School, Tiffany Belnavis, para at Park Ave, Carolyn Roche, cafeteria staff at Park Ave, Shelby Jaringi will be our new Quest teacher at Bartlett High School. We have received the resignations from Megan Daniels, a para at Webster Middle School, Allison Ronez, an ABA at Park Ave. Given that we have a number of open positions, which you will see in your packet, we have had to make some transfers based on staffing certifications, in particular in the area of special education. So we have recently moved Kelly O'Brien from academic interventionist to the special education inclusion position at Bartlett. We have moved Abby Gould from a para to an academic interventionist at Bartlett. We have moved Tracy Vangel, who is our academic interventionist at Park Ave, to a long-term sub position in grade 3. And we have moved Faith Veronis from academic interventionist into a K inclusion position for right now. There is a list of open positions. We are doing everything we can to fill those positions. And I think, unfortunately, although that we have a list, we are in, I think, a better position than most districts with our positions. So we're at the point where we have to look at who we have. I kind of liken it to a baseball team who's on the bench, and then look at certifications to fill compliance areas first, and that's what we are doing. I will keep you abreast of any more changes as they come. Any questions before I move on? In terms of the instructional leadership update, I think we've been busy, and it feels like we've been in school already for a month, but it's not been a month. I had the pleasure of meeting with Mr. Collins and Mr. Carney and Daniel Lopez from One Goal. One Goal, as you know, is a program that MAFRE helped us sponsor. It is a 3-year program. It starts when students are juniors. They do it their junior year, their senior year, and then we follow them as freshmen. We had a 100% success rate with our One Goal program. 7 of our students completed year 2 and entered year 3 into colleges, as we shared with you. And I'm sure I shared with you the nice MAFRE magazine, which highlighted our Bartlett students and our program. After meeting with Mr. Carney and Mr. Collins and Mr. Lopez, our goal is to really fill those programs up, more than 7 students. So there's nothing prohibiting us from doing that. This is a really beneficial program for kids who never had college on their radar to put college on their radar and give them the guidance and structure that they need. Mr. Carney will be continue as our advisor for the year 3 students. We will fund his time that he spends communicating with freshmen through our ESSER funds to make sure that there is that support network through One Goal. In terms of our literacy reset and our mission to put academic coaches in our buildings, which we have done, our original plan was to have the coaching model for those academic coaches and the principals and the ILTs. We've had a little bit of a twist to that. We will be hiring the Hill consultant, Alex Stout, who has done a fabulous job at Park Avenue. She will continue to work with the academic coach, Tara Gelino, the principal, and the ILT on the literacy work that they're doing in more of a the coaching model, building a distributive leadership team, not just with the academic coach, but with the instructional leaders. We had moved away from Hill through our GLEAM grant to TNTP, a different organization, also funded through DESE for the GLEAM literacy work. Again, that's free support that's coming to us to ensure the fidelity of the use of our research-based materials that we have. The model last year was really giving teachers direct support from Hill on their lesson planning. Again, we're stepping back and we're trying to have TNTP really work with the ILTs and the coaches in the buildings so that there's more of a distributive model. The TNTP work through GLEAM will cost us an additional $40,000, and that will be funded through ESSER. Through the Department of Education, I have signed us up for additional support for free through the Learning Accelerated Network. That is coming through TNTP as well. We're hoping they're the same people so we don't have this crossover confusion. They're able to provide support in the area of math. They're content driven, so they're going to be giving us free support for Webster Middle School. We did put out an RFP. They were not able to give us free support for the math at Bartlett High School, but we really want to balance out the supports for English and math at the middle school and at the high school, again, because they're in turnaround status. So we put out an RFP. TNTP did bid. There will be, we will give them a contract for additional math support, and that will be $40,000 coming from ESSER. So we are not going to have a specific additional consultant coming in at the middle school and the high school to coach the coaches. We believe that the TNTP services through GLEAM and through the Learning Accelerated Network and through the additional math support will provide enough support for us to move forward. So we will keep an eye on that. We have not started with TNTP. We don't anticipate starting until the end of September with them. GLEAM will be up and running. We will put together a GLEAM team as we did last year, and we will proceed working on the literacy needs assessment and the action steps associated with the literacy need assessment. So there's a nice crossover with Hill and TNTP that will also happen between the district and the administration team. So I'm excited about the supports that are going to be in place, and I'm really excited about the academic coaches and how they've stepped up to be supporting their peers. They're doing some fabulous things already in week 2 of school with providing support in the classrooms and helping guide some of the common practices that we have had, like iReady assessments. We just had iReady assessment, and they're able to spend more time with teachers that were resistant to that assessment or didn't know how to log in. So there's that additional layer of support that their peers are supporting them with. So I'm pleased to hear a lot of the good things that are going on. As you know, under our sense of belonging, social emotional supports has always been important to me. We've certainly increased our counseling staff across this district in my tenure here. We have signed another MOU with U Inc. to have counselors that provide therapy to students with parent permission, and they bill their insurance company or Mass Health. We are working with them to get spaces set up at each of the schools. So there'll be another layer of additional support for our students in our schools. Webster Days at Sturbridge Village. Last year was our first year that we initiated the Webster Days, where grade 3 and grade 8 went on the same day. We actually did try to get the high school to participate in that, and maybe this year we could get the high school to participate in that, where they customize a day of fun, interactive learning, where sometimes the 8th graders are working with the 3rd graders. So we're really trying to build those peer-to-peer relationships. I'm pleased to let you know that Webster 5 donated $5,000 on behalf of our school district to Sturbridge Village so that we can continue that with them. I would like to let you know that Dr. McKay and I had a meeting at North Village, and again, we're looking to go back to some of our regular things that we used to do, the above and beyond after-school care or after-school tutoring, after-school programming through Title I. We're hoping to initiate that in 8-week chunks over at North Village, and in our meeting, Denise was able to tell us about an upcoming health fair on October 6th over at North Village, and we're hoping to get some of our counselors there and some tables with resources and books to give out to families. Kind of reminded me of the time that we went and we had the cookout there. So we're trying to build back some of the partnerships that were a little bit dormant during COVID. Any questions before I move on?
Dr. Gogan, I'm not sure if this or for Mr. Collins, but going back to the one goal, are there supports or guardrails in place for those students who have been through the program, they've been accepted to college, but then they decide not to attend their freshman year? Is there anything in place for those students?
That's the year 3 support that I was talking about, with Mr. Carney being their key advisor, because they were in his cohort. So he's the contact person, and One Goal themselves have some contact, but the relationship is with Mr. Carney. So we're going to continue to fund and support that outreach. I haven't heard of any of our students dropping out so far, but the One Goal support mechanism, they check in on the kids, but the relationship is really with the teacher that taught the class. So we want to support Mr. Carney in being that year 3 advisor, and then when it's Melinda Doherty's year 3, she would be the year 3 contact, because there's 2 cohorts. Mr. Carney teaches it, and so does Melinda Doherty.
All right. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, so, you know, the 100% success rate is something that not all schools get. I mean, our numbers were low, and that's why we're looking to increase them. But to have 100% success rate on the first cohort is unusual, according to Daniel Lopez. So kudos to our teachers and kudos to the kids for not giving up, right?
Absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Through the chair. I have a couple. First, what is TNTP?
That's a really good question. I have no idea. That's what we call them, TNTP. I don't have their contract in front of me. It's an organization of support. So I will, what is it called?
The New Teacher Project.
Thank you. And with all the shuffling of administration at Park Ave, is there a dean of students?
There currently is not a dean of students. They're looking for an interim dean of students. So there are applicants, and they are doing their interviewing on top of maintaining the school. So they're fitting that in when they can. They're actually doing a really good job. I want to give a shout out to them.
And just a reminder, because it's that time of the year, that principals should be looking at their school councils. We had an issue with that last year. The principals should not be writing the school improvement plans. It's the school council's job to write the school improvement plan. So it might be a good idea to start getting some feelers out for some parent and community connections to be on their councils.
They have all been reminded of that, and I have suggested that at their open houses, they run their elections for their school councils. They all, you know, we have gone over that at the District Summer Summit and at our DLT meetings. So yes, they are aware.
Thank you.
In terms of management and operations update, as I said, everybody's been interviewing or trying to get people to come here. Unfortunately, we had 2 candidates for the coordinator, diversity and equity and inclusion, and we have not filled that position yet. I've already filled you in about the moving of staff with compliance. We have had some of our meetings for the Bartlett High School renovation project today. There's going to be a series of meetings with department heads to look at the design. Our OPM and our designer were here. We were in this room for how many hours today? I know, I'm not gonna go on, but, yep. So that's well underway in terms of the Bartlett High School renovation project. You'll hear more from Mo, we can share it. In terms of safety preparedness, we have a full plan of safety preparedness drills. Principals are responsible to inform families of evacuation drills, which are going to be happening, and fire drills happened the first week of school. And again, I will remind everyone that drills happen for a reason. They're a learning opportunity. So no matter when they happen, if we know about them or we don't, we learn something about how to respond in a crisis. And so we have to take that information and use it wisely. So we're all learning together. In terms of behavior incident collection system, I think at the end of the year, I had told you that the district leadership team had met and we were going to be putting into place the use of Swiss data, which aligned with PBIS work. We've taken a turn on our road. We took a look at Educator Handbook. It is not an add-on to Power School, which I thought. It's a separate program that can speak to Power School, which is the system that we use. And we are proceeding with caution to hope that it does talk to Power School. And we believe that system is going to be more efficient and effective for us and not require 2 inputs of data. So what is important to us about the data and the incidents is that it's valid and that everybody's using it. So we're trying to find a system that's going to work. We had a nice meeting the other day on that. We have a lot of good energy at the beginning of the year, and I want to thank our staff for stepping up to do some really cool things. Kelly Porter, a counselor over at Webster Middle School, has organized the middle school group to participate in the suicide prevention walk at Polar Park on September 17th. This Friday, myself and Miss Bigelow and Mr. Collins and Miss Barocas will be taking advanced manufacturing students to Polar Park to participate in the hands-on Massachusetts manufacturing mashup, which will be really fun. There's a level of excitement that I think we as adults have to contain and prolong in this district. It feels really good for the kids to be in school. It feels good for the adults to be in school. And yes, there have been a lot of changes. And yes, some of these changes were very well needed, but everyone is stepping up. So I'm really pleased about that. In terms of family and community engagement, there's been a lot of activities. I know that Victoria just told us about the freshman barbecue, and I'm sure you're going to talk about that, so I'm going to pass over that. Our new principal, Mrs. Pugliafico, held a virtual story hour the day before school started for the elementary students. We had the chemical health nights at both Bartlett and the Webster Middle School. PTO held their first meeting on September 6th, and newsletters and information is going out, I think, at a quicker pace than I've seen in years past to keep people informed about things that are going on. In my other updates, I will tell you that at my superintendent's conference, I was enthralled with seeing this Echo printer. I'm always looking for ways for students to get involved in hands-on activities, and we purchased an Echo printer for our life skills students at the high school so that they could start their own business. I meant to bring in a poster to show you what the Echo printer can do, but it can do all sorts of things like Student of the Month posters, Webster Public Schools, Bartlett Pride, so they can develop their own business. And with this Echo printer comes a program and a training. So Miss Yvonne Lambert and the students in life skills are excited about this, and I'm excited for them. So that's coming down the pike. And there's some other things in my update. Lastly, I will say that the adult education program is up and running, and tonight at 5 o'clock I had the pleasure of meeting all their staff. And I, again, was pleased at the organization of welcome to being an adult education teacher. Here are our protocols and practices. Let me start with safety. So after introductions, there was a building walkthrough, and this is where we go, and this is what we do. So there was a nice energized group there, and I think we're off to a great start for the 22-23 year. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Gogan.
Welcome.
Just one quick question about data. So while we evaluate the educator handbook, what are we doing to gather data just so that we have from beginning of year, to current when we do decide on a platform?
So it's my understanding that everyone is using PowerSchool logs, the statewide system of support. I mean, what is reportable to the state has to go in there. So they are using the PowerSchool right now to log their incidents. There won't be a crossover from this gap until we get a new system, but we will have what's in PowerSchool.
Okay, so there might be some things that would be reported into this other platform that we won't have captured.
The statewide, the state reportable of offenses to the state will be.
Right.
But the smaller things won't be.
Okay.
But I will tell you, after walking around the school, I think, again, and I've said this all last year, I think the code of conduct and the clarity of expectations and what everyone is responsible to do helps keep things calm. I think when you're clear with expectations, students follow. We're, of course, going to have an occasional behavior incident because we're a school. But I think that clarity in what is expected and the practice of this is how we act when we walk down the hallway, or this is what's acceptable and this is not what's acceptable. I think there's been a concerted effort to make sure that both adults and students understand what those expectations are. And I've definitely seen a difference in the school. I definitely see a difference in the behaviors in the hallways. So I'm hoping that the collection of the data at the end of the year will be much different than we have seen in years past. And I can say without a doubt, we were not the only district facing behavior challenges last year. Last year was a tough year for every student, every teacher, every parent, everybody. So onward and forward, I think we'll be okay.
Great, thank you. The next item on the, oh, sorry. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Dr. Gogan before we move on? Ms. Millett?
I like how you looked at me. Could you explain more what Chemical Health Night is?
Yeah, sure I can. It's a weird name, isn't it?
Yes.
It's what the state uses. It's a mandatory night for any athletes and their families to go over protocols and practices, anti-hazing, anti-bullying, what is allowable, what the chain of communication is, the importance of teamwork. So Mr. Paranto puts those on. This year, for the first year, we separated the middle school and the high school for developmentally appropriate reasons. Mr. Paranto will track students who did not attend to ensure that they understand those rules and regulations and their families understand that, because part of the DESE regulations are that secondary principals, middle and high school, have to report that they have informed all athletes and any extracurricular students of anti-hazing and anti-bullying regulations. So that responsibility is on the athletic director.
And actually also concussion protocols as well.
Yes.
Covered.
It's just the word chemical that,
Well,
Yeah, it's a weird
I'm
name.
like, this has nothing.
well, because they talk in particular at the high school about the dangers of performance enhancing drugs and even just drugs in general and to stay away from them.
Good,
Yep.
thank you.
Sorry to jump in, I was there
No,
as a parent.
I forgot about concussion.
Any other questions or comments for Dr. Gogan before we move on? Hearing none, the next item on the agenda is the business manager report. Good evening, Mrs. Perangeli.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you. First item I have is building committee update. It is starting to pick up with building committee items. We do have a scheduled meeting for this coming Tuesday night at 6 o'clock here. But over the past month, we are starting to pick up with our department meetings. Like Dr. Gogan said, we spent, actually it was probably like 3 hours this afternoon in this room, meeting with a couple of departments, starting to plan for the upcoming year, talking about modulars, what's that going to look like, how is it going to impact classes and the flow of the normal school day here at the high school. So there's a lot to start thinking, and I think that's what all of these meetings are. Yeah, but it's to get us to start to think, you know, a year down the road, 2 years down the road, what are things going to look like, and start to plan. What's a classroom going to look like? What's your flow of programming going to look like? The building flow. So there are a lot of things that are moving right now that are on our calendars, but they're exciting. And not just in here, you can see things starting to pop up on the grounds. They've been out, we've had contractors out. They have about 5 holes dug throughout the property doing different soil testing so they can get a better gauge on drainage. They're going to come back and touch up some of those, but then in a month, they're going to be drilling multiple sites throughout to get an idea, a better idea of the foundations and the grounds throughout the site. So it's on the outside and on the inside of the building, there's going to be a lot of activity picking up. So it's exciting stuff, and it's definitely interesting. I've been on 2 different projects, and I learn something new every time. It's really exciting to sit and go through. So we'll be talking in more detail on Tuesday night and updating and taking a look at a schedule. Our hope is to be going out to bid in August of next year. So, you know, in less than a year, we'll be going out to bid for our project. So we all know how fast the school year goes by. So, and put a bunch of meetings on top of that and a lot of activity, it's going to go really fast. But it's all good things happening. We're excited about it. Any questions on building committee?
Through the chair.
Yes, Ms. Millett?
Did you get the other members?
Not
your
yet. So
committee?
we're going to discuss that at building committee tomorrow on how we're going to do that. Okay. Any other questions? No? Next Tuesday, I'm sorry, this coming Tuesday. Yeah, sorry. No, a week from now, it'll be here, it'll feel like tomorrow. Next item is maintenance updates. So I'm happy to say it's been a good couple of weeks. We haven't had any major issues. I hope people have noticed the grounds out at the middle school and Park Ave. We've had them cleaned up and mulched, and everything looked very pretty for the start of school coming in. Our buildings are looking great, and I hope people have taken notice to that because the guys are very proud of their buildings. On the inside of the buildings, we haven't had any issues, I'm happy to say, with this latest rain. You never know what's going to pop up. We did have one or two little minor areas pop up in the high school, but nothing major. The areas that we have had repaired stayed that way. They didn't leak. So we're excited about that. I'm hoping we can kind of maintain that good momentum moving forward. We have not had any issues really throughout the 3 schools. I did want to give a shout out to our custodian, Stephen Camerano at Park Ave. The sheds that they have, the ramps were all rotted out. He actually built us some new ramps for the building, and the head custodian, Sean, was very pleased and happy with Mr. Camerano's work and wanted to give him an extra shout out and say thank you for his work over there. So it's all good things happening. That's it for maintenance. I really have nothing new to report on. Do you have any questions? Have you noticed anything or any areas of concern out in the community about what's going on in our buildings?
I haven't heard anything. Anyone else? Mr. Allen?
A question with the winter, fall first,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. Do we have sufficient boiler capacity in this building now going into that season?
It's working now.
Talking wood.
Working now. Had it repaired last year. It fired up. It was working. So as long as it stays working, we have capacity. If something should happen and the main boiler shuts down, we do not have capacity to heat the building. So at that point, we would be looking at emergency boiler or repair, something temporary to hold us through the project. But as long as the main boiler stays working, we have capacity. You're welcome.
Any other questions?
Next item on the agenda is the FY22 budget closeout. In your packet, you should have had a cleaned up budget from the FY22 fiscal year. After cleaning it up and looking at making sure we had all our bills encumbered and things up to date, it looks like we will be returning $143,427.03 back to the town. Typically, that money will go back to free cash, and then the town will decide what to do with it. But we have been consistently partners with our community in town, and once again, you know, we are returning some of our, we've been very fortunate with ESSER funds and had areas where we could pull other things for supplies and cleaning materials due to ESSER. So that's helped with the surplus in our school budget. Is there any questions about the FY22? No? Okay. The other item I have is just transportation. As you know, we've gotten off to a pretty good start in the school year. I haven't had any major complaints about transportation. The one area that we are keeping our eyes on is the Lake Street area. In the construction, I did hear a couple of times that buses may have been detoured around, getting some mixed communications from contractors and the bus company, so I'm working on that and trying to keep communication flowing. I think the town is struggling a little bit just with the vendor that's doing the construction for our, the piping. It's just been a little difficult communicating back and forth. So last we talked, they are supposed to be letting the buses through whenever they can. There is a rare occasion where they may have to block off the road just because of the location of where they have to dig. But they would let me know that morning that the road probably be closed in an area so we could notify people that they might have to move up. Or as soon as they know, it's better if I know the day before, then we can let families know. But that is the area that we are keeping a close eye on. But other than that, I think transportation has run pretty smoothly. The schools have a good handle on who's on the bus. We are using student bus passes. So if you're eligible for a bus, you do, the first week or two, we've been flexible with not needing a bus pass. But we are going to be buckling down on that, making sure bus passes are required to get on the bus so we know who's riding the bus, that they're eligible for the bus. And it helps us also keep the counts in check because I will have the drivers starting to check the capacity of the buses. I was told we have a couple full buses from the elementary school, so we just want to make sure that we're in compliance with everything. There's no overcrowding on the buses. We have seats for everybody at the elementary school because we do bus everybody. That's K through 4. There is no mileage cutoff at the elementary school. So we're working on it, and I will bring you more updates as we get our numbers and narrow down so you can have some more accurate information. Any questions?
Through the chair.
Yes, Ms. Millett?
I just happen to be, I guess, in the right, I don't know if it's the right place or not, but bus time. And I was going by Big Lots parking lot, and a bus had a drop-off there. There were parents waiting for students that were getting off the bus in Big Lots parking lot. I just thought that was odd and maybe not that safe.
I think
didn't
that's
know.
the charter school. The Sturbridge Charter School has a drop-off there, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I don't think AA goes
It's
in the
not us.
parking lot. I don't think it's our bus that's going in the parking lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I'm not-
because I don't have that stop on my route sheet. That would flag for me, so I
went,
don't remember
"Whoa."
seeing that.
I just saw these
Yeah.
students getting off in the parking lot. Thank you for clarifying.
And then just in other updates, we have a couple things going on district-wide with technology. We have purchased over the summer Unitrend, which is a backup system for our files and programs and servers online here. So the good thing is now, we always backed up our files, we always had them, but they were always on site and in the same location. Now we have off-site backup and we have cloud backup. So in the event with a security breach, which is, becoming more and more for communities and schools across Massachusetts, we are in pretty good shape and pretty well prepared for that. I can't say that we'll never have any downtime, but I'm happy to know that the information we have is backed off-site and secure. So in the event of a breach, we could be looking at a day versus looking at, weeks of downtime. We have the ability to get backups and bring them down into the system. So that's good news for us. And then the second thing with technologies, over the summer, we were updating some of our security at the middle school, adding cameras. We've been trying to increase those over the past years. We did it the year before, adding a few, and we added more this year to cover some of the blind spots. We didn't have them in stairwells and other areas. We're updating the outdated ones on the outside. So American Alarm did come in. They did the wiring. Now we're just waiting for the cameras to come in, but a lot of the behind-the-scenes work, the wiring, was done when kids were not in school. So it'll be pretty simple when the equipment does come in that we can update that, and it's always helpful to have that additional security in the building. And then it is September. We've just closed out FY22, so I'll be starting to work on the end-of-year report. That's usually due at the end of the month. And while we're doing that, we are still continuing to work through audits with the town. They've been in doing some preliminary field work on their single audits, and they will continue through the end of the year and probably after the first of the year, tying those up. So it's a busy time, starting up and closing out, and just, I know, and then we'll be doing that probably next month, starting, working on our FY '24 budget. So it's active, it's busy, but it's all good stuff. So, any questions?
Thank you for those updates, Mrs. Perangeli.
Thank you.
Any questions for anyone? No? Okay. Next item on the agenda is the principal report. Good evening, Mr. Collins.
Good evening. How are y'all?
Very good, and you?
Yes, very good. Thank you. So much to update. I wish that it could be everything, but just to highlight a few things. First and foremost, our school opening for me started when we welcomed the class of 2026 at our barbecue. It was, as Victoria said, highly attended. We had a lot of volunteers, so it was nice to be able to see community stakeholders as well come to the table to welcome the class of 2026, very nervous as they were, but settled in, I think, pretty well in the days to come from there. Also, with our school opening, I was very excited that we opened the school fully Power School scheduled, with all students having 7 courses and introducing, of course, the change process and what that would look like in the first 10 days. But we were fully scheduled, and it was exciting to be able to work with counselors in that capacity and open the building with all students fully scheduled. We worked quickly in the first few days to establish safety protocols, as I think we all agree it's very important this time of our lives to make sure that schools are first and foremost safe every day for all of our children. And at Bartlett, we immediately jumped right into what safety protocols and procedures look like at Bartlett. As Victoria also talked to you all about, in the first 10 days of school, we have spent time in our advisory classes, or homeroom, as it is called in Power School. And that allowed for us as a schoolhouse to extend the district initiative of creating a sense of belonging as a jumping place or a point for us to allow all students to feel welcomed in every table 7 times a day. And with establishing that sense of belonging in an advisory, it allows them to connect with one teacher. Of course, we go over safety protocols and procedures there. We went over lockers, as she told you, and that was a big deal for many of my students and for me, since back in the 90s, spinning a locker. So it was interesting. And every morning I would go out and we were all tinkering with the numbers, and that was fun. It was fun though at the same time, but while we think that those are minuscule things, those are really important to children, and engaging with them, it took well to the hour of the first few days to do that with all students, and then of course to establish protocols and what that looks like for lockers, enforcing the time limits that they'll have at lockers every day. And then, of course, we jumped into our staff handbook, which is an extension of the safety protocols and procedures and what the everyday should look like and what it is to be a responsible student in the halls of Bartlett. The teachers who are leading advisory led students through that over the days. As Victoria also told you, we are at the 30-minute mark now, so we're only meeting for 30 minutes as we just are going over forms and different things that need to be in Google Chromebook policies and things as such. But in those first 5 days, we had class assemblies, which for me is really a place where we set the tone. And it's interesting for me to see the bookends, the 9th graders and the 12th graders, and what the drastic difference of the assembly is like. It is almost like going to a press conference when you go to the 12th grade assembly, because it is fielding a lot of questions, versus the freshman assembly is a lot of information. So we relied heavily on our advisory teachers to bring home some of the things and the differences. After our last meeting, our protocols and procedures outlined within the handbook do align directly with the middle school, as it was approved here, of course, and we were cautious to guide them slowly in what that's going to look like. protocols and procedures. To with seniors, it's reviewing. And then everyone in the middle is kind of the same way. So it's interesting, but I will say, I think very helpful for students to have that time, that mindful time set aside to go over those things in the first couple of days of school. Also, to wrap that up, in the first 10 days, as you all know, we work directly with counselors through the Power School process of changing schedules and balancing courses. So coming in as the new principal, there are a lot of things with the schedule that we need to change that meet the needs of all students and all types of learners. And that's been a real focus of mine personally with my administrative staff. So we're working closely with that. We are down to 2 days left of the 10-day changes. That's based more on student request in Power School. But we will, of course, continue to look at schedule changes that are in the need of students and making those adjustments as needed. Just want to make sure I covered all of my notes on the beginning of school. Are there any questions about the school opening?
Any questions from the committee? It sounds like you all are off to a great start.
I think so. I feel so. I'm excited about it, so that's good. Class assemblies, as I kind of mentioned there, set the tone for us, and that's really a big deal for me as a new leader here, is to allow students to have a voice at the table, but to also let them know what the expectations look like to be a student and what this needs to look like as we further them. And we've been very lucky so far to not have any issues with our students that we would need to report or anything like that. In terms of communication, this I felt was important to talk about this evening because at the class of 2026 barbecue where we welcomed our new freshmen, there was something posed to me from rising ninth grade parents about what Class Dojo looked like. Both as a parent and as an educator from a different state, I hadn't used Class Dojo. So I love to dive in and kind of check it out. So I'm diving in and I'm looking at it and I'm like, wow, there's little minions or little things. I wasn't sure. There were so many things. And then everyone was like, don't worry about those. You can change those. There's so many things you can do with it. So myself and my assistant principal, Mrs. Nieves, she, of course, using it as a parent, seeing it on the other side, it's a little bit different. We have decided that we are going to explore what that's going to look like for the first time for the high school to set up Class Dojo for parents so that it pushes through. We know our freshman parents are just used to it, so it's going to be a platform that works really well. I have actually twisted the arms of a couple teachers to even try it as their class platform, and that's going to be different for high school teachers. So I'm really excited to say that we have a few that have really stepped out of the box. And then I upped the ante a little bit and said, let's lead a PD. If we like it in quarter, semester, let's lead the PD, let's get some other teachers on board. So we want to find the best ways of communication, the ones that parents will respond to. We did, of course, in the first 10 days, we're wrapping this up now, but every parent at Bartlett got a phone call from that advisory teacher, that first welcome phone call, that welcome text message, set that two-way communication up. But ongoing communication, we know, can sometimes get lost. So we really want to be mindful what that looks like. So thanks to the parents at the 2026 barbecue for bringing that to us and what that looks like, because at a high school, it will be a stretch. I don't have any high school colleagues in my life that use it, but I am excited that we are going to use it and see how it goes and really put communication out there along with our website and our Facebooks and our Instagrams, because as we know, in 2023 almost, our kids are on there every day. And that's really the greatest platform, but it is nice for us parents to get that ding ding to hear that there's the Class Dojo announcement. So I like it. So far, I like it, and I think that my teachers like it, and that's important. So once we get it rolled out for parents to sign up, I would love to report that out, how it goes further. Lastly, we are beginning just this week, today, our coach, as Dr. Gogan introduced in her report, the 3 coaches at all the schools are great additions, and I am very pleased to be working with mine at Bartlett. And we started the idea of what mindful data conversations look like, truly jumping into more than just the graphs and taking apart where students are, but really truly understanding targeted, individualized instructional needs of every student and who is in front of you. And that's going to be some of the work that we're going to do through our PD throughout the year. So we started those today. I was meeting with architects, and I feel fully confident that she did well in that conversation with the rest of our ILT stakeholders this evening after school. And I'm very excited as we look toward where Bartlett has been, but most importantly, where I know Bartlett can be and what our students can do. And so that is really going to be about that mindful data conversation and not being afraid to talk about data, because data is so personal sometimes. And so that's really what we're working on there in terms of that. Thank you.
Thank you for your updates, Mr. Collins. Are there any questions or comments from the committee? I know when we were together last, we had a long conversation about dress code and all of that kind of stuff. How's that going?
Great. I will say that those conversations, those press conference style conversations with class assemblies they are, and as a parent, I look at it from two lenses, and I tell my teachers that a lot. I have two lenses. I look at it from a parent, I look at it from a school leader aspect, and then there's always that teacher heart that you have to kind of look at things. And with our students, we haven't had much pushback with the redirect of what that looks like. Again, we aligned our dress code exactly to what you all approved from the middle school. So the students have experienced that before, and ours was pretty much aligned there from that before, and we've not had too many questions. I will say we've had some of the older children ask us why they can't, wear pajamas to school, or why can't we do this, but no pushback, nothing wild, nothing crazy to report. The other thing that we did talk about is cell phones, and we have thankfully not had any issues with that. It is about conversations with kids. It truly is. And, and if you talk to some of the students in the sessions, I mentioned, I said, you have professionals in front of you teaching every day, but we look at you as young professionals too. And when you're learning or you're at a job, we don't want you using the cell phone. And in 48 minutes, when this bell rings, the phone is still going to be there. If there's an emergency, your parents are able to contact. And we went through all that steps. And, I think truly having the time with advisors, having the time with grade level assemblies has helped. And it's something that I think we're thankful that we did, because we haven't had those issues. I know that, moving forward, you're going to have students who are not going to want to follow dress code. I think as it gets colder, it's a little bit different. We bundle up, right? But right now it is. But we have not had anyone push the envelope to where it is needed to be reported, or any kind of issues with teachers to where it has gotten to write-up status. So I think we're okay on that home front.
So you set the bar and they're reaching it.
Yeah, they're great kids. And, as I said to you all last time, I'm very excited to lead this school, and it's been a great 8 days.
That's great to hear. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from anyone? Thanks for your updates, Mr. Collins.
Thank you.
So the next item on the agenda is under old business, and it's the monthly fundraising update. Just a reminder, it is the role of the school committee to review fundraising applications, but we don't approve them. And I know that there is a car wash in here. That actually, I know that didn't happen. We had a water ban, an outside water usage ban, so that wasn't able, that may be tabled and rescheduled, but we were in the middle of the drought when that was supposed to happen, so.
Well, I want to give a shout out to our Park Avenue PTO, because they have a year filled with fun events, as you can see by the list of
Yes.
fundraising activities. They'll be selling spirit wear, and they're having penny wars between grades. They'll be selling some Meadow Farm stuff. They have 2 Scholastic Book Fairs scheduled, a Winter Carnival scheduled, and the Me and Special Someone Dance is already scheduled. So I think it's a very active PTO. We have a strong group of both teachers and parents, and we're excited to see all the fun things that they do for our students. So I want to give a thank you to them. And just as an aside, we will be attending a family partnership workshop in October, and the PTO president will be joining me.
That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, very happy to have that PTO back up and running, for sure. Anything else about fundraising? No?
No, just a thank you to them, because it does take a lot of time and energy. But I think with a large team, it's shared distributive leadership, and everybody's excited that they're not holding the pressure themselves. So it's about the teamwork.
That's great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda under new business is the approval of the Webster Educators Association Memorandum of Agreement to increase the web page manager duties and stipend.
Thank you. In our negotiated contract, we absolutely made the web page managers a year-round position, but we failed to raise the stipend. So this MOU, which was ratified by the WEA, is to increase the stipend from $2,488 to $2,986 for the school year.
Any discussion? I will entertain a motion to approve the Webster Educators Association Memorandum of Agreement.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And the next item on the agenda is the discussion about signs for the Webster Middle School basketball court.
Thank you. Just as a follow-up to Linda's comments and questions last week, I wanted to request the school committee determine what kind of signs they wanted to have at the Webster middle school basketball courts. There's a couple choices: surveillance signs, no public use during school hours, or both.
Yes, Ms. Naprata?
Just for clarification, are they the basketball courts, both basketball courts?
I was specifically talking about the Webster Middle School, where the kids go out for recess inside, over there.
Yeah, okay.
I have a direction problem.
Sorry.
Over there.
I'm like, wait, that's Bartlett.
So just the Webster Middle School.
Okay.
I have not heard of any one using the high school or coming near the high school. So I think the Webster Middle School is an area that does need to be off limits during school hours, because the kids use that space for recess.
Mhm.
But there's 3 different types of signs: under surveillance, no public use during school hours, or both signs.
Through the chair.
Ms. Millett?
First of all, I think they should be posted for all 3 schools, the areas. But I happen to like the one that Dudley Charlton has that says they're not available to the public when in use for school activities. Because that kind of, it gives a message, but it's not saying you can't use them at all.
Mhm.
You had sent me those pictures.
Yeah.
I have that.
This way, you're not saying, well, if nobody's out here, if they're not being used, then they could be used
Mhm.
by the public.
Right, and of course, we want the public to feel welcome
Right.
to the extent that it doesn't interfere with what's going on in the school. So is it an either-or proposition, that we either have signs related to surveillance, or
No,
it could be any combination of
It
this,
could be any
right?
combination. Your wish is my command. How's that?
Can we go down the line and just maybe share our perspectives, or how do we want to do this? So we make sure everyone's heard.
Linda, can you just repeat what that sign says?
Well, for them, it's their field complex will not be available to the public when in use for school activities.
Is that an option? Okay. Because I guess that's
Then it
more,
actually says, we appreciate your cooperation. So that is a nice addition, too.
because
but
that
it-
language, go ahead.
Yeah. Are there cameras at all the schools on the outsides of the buildings? So are we talking including the video surveillance signs? Because you said you had some at the last meeting. Oh. Because usually they're both. One, to let people know there's video surveillance, and the other was the actual use.
Yeah, the video surveillance is just to kind of let people know we do monitor
Mm-hmm.
the grounds and just, we haven't really had any major issues. It's just trash and cleaning up and picking up and, but we do monitor the grounds. So I think it's important for people to understand that when they're using our facilities, they're being monitored.
Right.
That's what we were speaking about at the last meeting. It's entirely up to the school committee if they want to post in other areas.
When we were together last time, we had agreed that we were going to see how things were going at
Yep.
the schools at the beginning of the year. No interference at this point, so nothing really to go on, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the middle school's valid because the kids use the basketball courts for recess. That's their area where they go out for recess. They're in that area.
But
Sure.
Gym teachers, phys ed teachers actually use the grounds too, not just that basketball court.
Mhm.
And some of the public also uses Park Ave's
Well, right, yeah. That was where I was headed, too.
facilities and their basketball there too.
Yeah.
lawn. Track. I mean, I don't know what the use is during the school day. I walk through here every night. All the basketball courts are being used by either groups of kids or parents with their kids. I've never seen any issues with anybody during my walkthroughs. And like I said, it's a daily occurrence, so I just don't want to preclude the public from
Nor do I.
feeling they
Yeah.
can't use the grounds.
Nor do I. That's why we're bringing it up.
Yep.
One of
But
the biggest things
there
that
have been issues during the school day.
Have there been frequent issues, or has it been more
Yes.
of like a one-off kind of situation?
I have been contacted that it's several. The issue more is while school is in session. So saying not available when in use, not necessarily when school is in session, but if it's being used by the school, then somebody can't come along and be part of that area.
Mr.
That's all.
Collins, yeah, go ahead.
It's not excluding anybody.
Sure, not to exclude. I think that when in use, maybe effective that, as Mr. Adamopoulos said, you know, you have one teacher on the lawn at this period. They might not be out there for 2 other periods. If I'm walking through and I see it's not in use, then I'm going to use it. So I don't know if maybe you all want to look at during school hours, maybe wording it that way, because I don't know. And I do know that some of my teachers don't utilize outside space all the time. Okay. So I can tell you just in 8 days, I see them coming towards the front and then using this front area and then walking towards out the back. So I can't say that it's open to close because it isn't. So I would be cautious of that because, again, as everyone has said, I don't want anyone in the community to not feel welcome. But I understand the sense of safety and it being used, or utilized for our children during school hours. Because then that doesn't limit teachers as to when they can go outside or when they're not able to go. And just as we spoke earlier in the meeting with the architects for the new build, when we do that, PE will look completely different. They will have to utilize a lot of spaces throughout the building for several months. So we will need to make sure that that language is, is effective for all stakeholders.
But I'm just going to play devil's advocate now, especially right now. If you say during school hours, what about like football practice that they use out there after school?
Have we encountered issues with that to this point? Or are we kind of
I
proactively?
don't know, but I'm saying if you say just during school hours, you still have a group of students that could be using that area. That's why if it's not being used, fine.
And we also rent out our facilities, so you have to take that into account, because we always say when we rent our facilities out or we're renting our fields out, we've had to ask people to leave because people have paid for the time on the field, whether it be a softball field, a baseball field, so they have priority over the field. We've never had an issue. I've never had a complaint brought to me to say, these people are on the field, we can't use it. They understand that if a team's coming on and, we've worked with the school to secure the facility for a month, they're good with that. They'll keep walking. And, our area is pretty active even during the day. We have
People
people
are
walking
walking
the
their
grounds,
dogs,
they
they're
walk the
respectful.
track. They're respectful to the property. I know we've had kids on playgrounds at the elementary school, but they see kids come out, they go, they leave, they're there after school. So it's not, I haven't known it to be a problem. If there are issues at middle school, I mean, we can certainly address them, and, if they were brought to my attention.
Yeah, they haven't been brought to this attention. And again, I'm cautious because that sense of belonging that we're talking about is our community. This is their home too.
Basketball court or a football field, if there's someone from the public there, they're going, I mean, common sense and probably just what you normally do is you just, okay, the kids are coming, so you kind of move away on your own.
Right.
I mean, I can just going back to when we played sports here, there were people that were on the soccer field or the football field, and when we all showed up, they would kind of just disappear because they just, okay, the kids are coming to play. Even during track season, people would be walking the track. When the track teams got there, they would just walk off the track because they realized that they weren't able to utilize it. I just don't want to say no use during school hours because
We're not using it all
is
the
a
time.
big area that I think gets utilized by a lot of people. Now, if the
We could say
middle
something
school's
like,
using it,
oh, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
priority given to school, during session or something like
I think
that.
there's a different situation here compared to maybe Park Ave because you have a school resource officer that's easily accessible if there is an issue here. I just don't want to play anything up that's going to adult the public to say, why can't we utilize public grounds? But at the same time, there is safety concerns for kids.
Do we have a policy related to the public use of school grounds?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We're going to have to
I
take a
don't know.
look at the policies. I'm not sure.
I think it's all about, we can't exclude, when you're talking about school safety and doing ALICE training and everything else, that also includes around the outside of the school. You can't exclude that. I think we need something, and I think it can be done nicely. And no way are you saying, no, nobody can use it. I've walked the track. We want people to do that. But there have been enough concerns by staff enough instances that there are some concerns.
What is the desire of the committee?
If we were to do the signs, I would lean more towards what Linda read
versus no use during school hours, because that is a very large block of time, and there's potential that nobody could be out there for the entire school day. And if I were to be out there and there's that sign, I'd feel like I was doing something wrong, because there's a sign that says I shouldn't be out there during school hours, even though no students are out there.
I would agree with that.
What if we were to have a sign, this is a little bit off the tone that we were looking at for the other one, but something that said, "Welcome to Webster Middle School. Please feel free to use this field and treat it as you would your own, property, meaning with care. But please know that utilization of this field is, a priority is given for students."
in school
That-
activity.
Yeah, that could be students during the school day, students, participating in a practice or that kind of thing, but it also sets the tone that the public is in fact welcome. And we also ask that they, treat the property with care.
And add the piece about the surveillance.
And by the way, you're on camera. No, I think that might be a separate sign that just says, premises are monitored 24 hours a day. Is it just video surveillance? Yes, yeah.
I like that approach.
Maybe a bit more welcoming.
Yeah. We'll roll it.
Landscape. It might be a little wordy, but I'm sure we can get that down.
Well,
Like something with that gist, like priority basketball court, students prior to, or something like that.
That helps.
I don't understand why it's just the basketball courts. Well, that's what's on the agenda. The Webster Middle School basketball court.
I would say that, Ms. Millett, if you have, other areas that you want to talk about, that we ought to talk about it within the vein, within the spirit of discussing, I'm sorry, I'm looking for where it is here, of posting signs, on school property.
Well, there have been issues on, I don't know what's there now, soccer field. It was the soccer field, then the baseball field, that area. There were issues with people using that field during the day.
Would it be reasonable for us to put together some language that maybe a couple of drafts, and we could all even, come up with our own iterations if we'd like, and when we come back together next time, go through some drafts and then talk in a meaningful way about where we would want these posted, and then we'll have it on the agenda,
That
the way
sounds
that
like
we
a
need
great
it.
idea.
Okay. Does that work? So we'll table this discussion?
Through the chair,
Ms. Millett?
I think part of that is that we need to, once they're up, I think there has to be a discussion with staff about what to do if there are strangers or there is a confrontation, because there have been some, and what to do and who to go to and what exactly to do. So it doesn't become something negative for somebody in our community.
Absolutely. And I think that
Don't want that.
the disconnection of you hearing information and us not hearing information is concerning to me, to be quite honest. If staff are having an issue with anybody, we are trained and we go over safety for us all to respond quickly. We do have access to a school resource officer. We have 3 administrators in we will have 3 administrators in every building, so that prompt response and that courtesy of having a conversation with whomever is out there is how we keep good community relations. So it's not we don't want to have issues. So I think that those conversations do happen, Linda, with staff, and we will reinforce them. I like the idea of coming back to the table to have different drafts, maybe shorter language, but simplifying our message, and that would be great. Thank you.
I think we're all in agreement though with the survey.
Mhm.
Possible those ordered so that we can get that moving. I think we're all kind of in agreement, at least on that part, correct?
Yeah, we're in agreement there. We should make a motion and pull the committee on that so we can have agreement there. Is that a motion, Mr. Adamopoulos?
I would make a motion that we order surveillance signs for the outside of the facilities around all 3 schools.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. Thank you. This is an important discussion. The next item on the agenda is the discussion of Sturbridge Village Charter School request to expand to include grades 9 through 12.
Thank you. Old Sturbridge Village Charter School has applied to expand their K-8 school to grades 9 through 12. All surrounding districts have the opportunity to submit a comment before October 18th to the DESE Board of Education. So I'm requesting the school committee to weigh in on whether or not they would like to submit a letter to DESE to not approve this expansion, as it has the potential of taking some of our students. Just to give you some background information, back in 2016, the Webster Public School Committee voted and sent a letter to the DESE board to urge them not to approve the opening of this charter school. And I will tell you that last year's numbers for our students attending Old Sturbridge Village were 17 in their K-8 school. So I know other surrounding districts are submitting a letter stating reasons why they wouldn't want the expansion of the 9 to 12. It is a school committee's decision, so I'm bringing that to you. I could make a suggestion that if you do decide to do that, I could bring a draft of a letter to you for the next meeting, if that so is your pleasure.
Any discussion about this? What is the desire of the committee?
I'll just remind the school committee that we're really working hard at improving our programming at Bartlett High School and maintaining our students. We know that we lose about 40 students to Bay Path and another 50 students to various schools. That will happen. If this charter school does open, we will see students leave.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just like to put that on the radar.
And along with the student goes the funding,
Yes.
which would have a negative impact on, the quality of education that we could provide to the students that are here in Webster.
So are we responsible for the costs of those students if someone's school choices out?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So I'd make-
You want-
There is a chargeback.
Yes.
There is. So I'd make a motion to have the superintendent bring a draft letter in opposition to this expansion to the next meeting.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you pull the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, the motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of a donation of 20 backpacks filled with supplies from Webster 5 Bank.
These backpacks were donated to the Webster Middle School, and once again, we want to thank Webster 5 not only for the backpacks, but for the $5,000 of donation they gave to Sturbridge Village on behalf of our district.
I'll entertain a motion to accept the donation from Webster 5.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes, and a big thank you to Webster 5 for their support for our students. The next item on the agenda is the acceptance of 2 tickets to Samuel Slater Museum. They were donated by Samuel Slater Museum.
To the Webster Middle School. And again, thank you to them. And we do have a number of other donations that came in at the beginning of the year, but our principals been so busy with getting acclimated that they'll be on the next agenda. Once again, in Webster, kindness definitely matters, and people are very generous, especially at the beginning of the year, to our students.
If there's no discussion, I'll entertain a motion to accept the donation of the tickets to the Samuel Slater Museum.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. Thank you to the Samuel Slater Museum for their continued support, not only to the school, but to the Webster community. They've been incredibly generous with free admission for folks, so big thank you to them.
It's an amazing museum.
The next item on the agenda is the review, transfer, signing of warrants, bills, payroll, and vouchers. And there's the transfer request in here, right?
Yes, there is. Yep. Thank you. I have a request to transfer $128,035 from the special ed collaborative tuition to multiple salary lines at the end of, if you remember correctly, at the end of last year when we were working on our budget, we received additional state aid. And at that time, it was in the amount of $605,000, 438. We put that in tuition at that point. We said that was the best place to put it. We were also in contract negotiation with all of our unions last year. So now that they're settled, we'd like to make the appropriate transfers. So this accounts for the difference in negotiations. It's $128,035, and it's broken down for you. I did not put the actual account lines, because if I did, you'd probably have 100 lines down the sheet. But it's only salary lines. It's only their main salary line that the money would be moved from the collaborative. We still have, that still leaves us a surplus in the tuition lines, because we are still on point with our tuitions for this year. We did have a couple move-ins, but we had a couple exits also. So we are holding steady. So we're still seeing a surplus in our tuition lines at about $300,000 right now.
That's great. Thank you for that explanation too, Mrs. Perangeli.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Are there any questions or discussion from the committee about this? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to transfer $128,035 from the special education collaborative tuition line to various salary lines.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Lori, would you please poll the committee?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wore this jacket specifically, so it's, yeah, well, because it would work as a pocketbook. Excellent.
Terms next week.
Yeah, yeah, because they start earlier, they do 7.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second, or would you poll the committee, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. Good night, everyone.